time for Overtime.
Stop what you're doing and listen.
In the world of sports, it's all about the playmakers in today's headlines, from locals to the pros, with interviews from local standouts and sports all-stars across the country that will have you talking.
And a drive to right. Good! The season has begun.
Hear from coaches to players, sports analysts, and broadcasters who are a part of the action every day. Overtime, now with Burt Ramin on ESPN 102.3 AM 1000 KSOO, Sioux Falls sports leader.
Rocking and rolling our way into hour number 2 on a Friday. We got at least one caller that's ready to rumble. I got Derek on line 1. He was our caller number 2. Derek, I know you're excited for the High Noon Showdown, always brought to you by the all-new Uncle Ed's Specialty Meats here in Sioux Falls. Big opportunity for you to start the weekend on top. Derek, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm excited for this weekend, man. This weather's going to be great. I'm so excited. I wish I could win some grill and gift cards. You got the opportunity to do that. But the issue is I need an opponent. So anybody can call in 605-362-3776. Derek, you get the choice, though. Do you want to go list A or list B for your questions today?
Let's go B.
List B for Derek. Derek, I'm going to put you on hold, my friend. Looking forward to you hopefully dominating whoever is brave enough to dial in 605-362-3776. If I don't get an opponent, I'm just going to give Derek the gift certificate to Uncle Ed's Specialty Meats and a pair of tickets to Whiskey Myers. I knew it. I got somebody on the line. Line number 2. Welcome into the show. What's your name?
Marty.
Marty, I appreciate the call. Marty, you ready to rumble?
Sure.
All right, let's go for it as we tune it up for the Masters weekend. Excited for it. You're going to have to know your stuff for Masters, for the NBA, and for the upcoming NFL draft. It is time for the High Noon Showdown.
That's 2 thus far, shooter.
Oh, you can count. Good for you.
And you can count on me waiting for you in the parking lot.
It doesn't have to be a fight in the parking lot, although we'd love to see that, actually. It's time to duke it out in this week's edition of the High Noon Showdown.
All right, it's just a little bit past noon. We're a lot of bit past noon. 7 minutes past noon. It's time for the High Noon Showdown on a Friday right here on ESPN Sioux Falls. I got Marty. I got Derek. Derek is up first. He was our first caller, and he got to choose his list. So, Derek, here we go. What jersey number does soon-to-be returning to the floor big man Karl Anthony Towns wear for the Minnesota Timberwolves?
Oh, boy. Is it 2?
It is not 2. It does have a 2 in it. He wears number 32. Not the greatest start, Derek, but we'll see what Marty can do. Marty, what jersey number does Dallas Maverick star Luka Doncic wear?
Oh, man. 23.
That is not correct. You would assume it would be an athletic number, but it's probably the most unathletic number in all the NBA. Luka Doncic actually wears number 77. Now, Marty, for your second question, I'm going to talk colleges for a pair of NFL draft quarterbacks, but you got to tell me not where they just finished college, but where they originally started at college. These two guys, relatively big names. The first one for you, Marty, is Spencer Rattler. He's going to be a mid-round quarterback draft pick. He started his career somewhere else. He finished his career at South Carolina. Today's question, Marty, though, where did Spencer Rattler start his college career playing ball?
Oh, this will be a guess, too.
What did you say?
I said this will be a guess. Also, Oklahoma.
Oklahoma is correct, Marty. That was a great guess. I thought you said this will be a guess, Duke, but you said this will be a guess, too. So on to Derek now. Opportunity to answer back, Derek. Jaden Daniels, likely to be a top 3, top 4 pick, at least one would think. Just finished up, won the Heisman Trophy at LSU, but he started his college career somewhere else. Do you know where Jaden Daniels first played college football, Derek?
I believe Arizona State.
That is correct. Your belief is correct. Derek, let's finish the job, get you your second win here, and hopefully Marty doesn't swing for the fences and connect on a long ball here with his third question. But Derek, here's your question. It is multiple choice. We're talking golf. What is it called when you score a 3 under par on a single hole in golf? Multiple choice. Is it a birdie, a double birdie, or an albatross?
It is an albatross.
That is correct, Derek. You got 2 right. Marty, over to you back on line number 2. More golf questions. Marty, multiple choice, so wait for the options. What year was the first Masters held down at Augusta? Was it 1916, 1931, or 1934?
I believe it was 1931.
It is 1934, Marty. You were so close. Derek, you are our winner. Marty, I appreciate the call. Derek, I've got your info, but man, you're starting out the weekend on a good note. Congratulations. I got your info. Prize pack will be available to pick up later on today or anytime next week. Congratulations, Derek.
Thank you very much.
All right, Derek takes home the crown on the High Noon Showdown, always brought to you by the all-new Uncle Ed's Specialty Meats. By the way, the tiebreaker, what is the most common winning Masters score to par? As far as the guy that wins the thing, what is the most common occurrence of to-par score for the winner at the Masters? And today's correct answer, it's happened 13 times in Masters history. 8 under par would have been the correct guess, but we didn't need overtime today as Derek slams the door shut with a 2 out of 3 performance on the High Noon Showdown. Let's dive into your scorecard from yesterday. NHL hockey first, Detroit-Pittsburgh tussling from Pittsburgh. Penguins get the overtime win 6-5. Elsewhere, Jets over Dallas 3-0. And lastly, let's talk about those LA Kings. Pretty darn good. 42, 26, and 11. They keep it up last night with a 4-1 win over Calgary.
Sharon Govich feeds it down low, tipped into the middle, but picked off, cleared, score! Bullseye! Victor Arvidsson.
4-1 the final there. Tonight in the NHL, Hurricanes at Blues at 7, Predators at Blackhawks 7:30, Coyotes at Oilers 8 o'clock. The Wild are in action. They are eliminated from postseason. Final couple games here. Wild at Golden Knights, 9 o'clock on ESPN+. Flames at the Ducks, also 9 o'clock start time on ESPN+. NBA Finals from yesterday, the Chicago Bulls also eliminated from postseason contention, 38-42 their record. They win in Detroit, 127-105.
The Pistons still stuck on 13 threes. They made 3 here in the second half. The Bulls defense deserves credit.
DeRozan feeling it. Knocks it down again on Troy Brown Jr.
Let's get out of his way.
Bulls moved to 38-42. Not eliminated. They're in the play-in, secured there against the Atlanta Hawks, 38-42. Currently the 9 seed in the Eastern Conference. Elsewhere, Knicks over the Celtics, 118-109. 39 points from Jalen Brunson as New York boosts their record to 48-32. Golden State wins in Portland, 100-92. Here's how one of the big shots late sounded on a 95-7 the game.
They can run another 7 seconds with 1:10 to go. Chris Paul gets the screen from Pajewski. Left wing, pull up, triple. Bulanites! This one's over. 190. It's a left wing 3 for Chris Paul.
100-92 the final. 45-35 the new record for Golden State. One other final of note from last night. New Orleans over Sacramento, 135-123. Pels moved their record to 48-32. Tonight in the NBA, Magic at Sixers, Bulls at Wizards, 6 o'clock jump times there. Lakers at Grizzlies, Hawks at Timberwolves, Bucks at Thunder, Nuggets at Spurs. All 4 of those games get going at 7 o'clock. And Timberwolves fans, again, 7 o'clock start home to Atlanta. And then later on this evening, nightcap action, Pelicans at Warriors, 9 o'clock. Suns at Kings, 9:30 on NBA TV. Quick foray into the standings in both conferences of the NBA. From top to bottom in the playoff race, it's Boston, Milwaukee, the Knicks, the Cavs, the Magic, and the Pacers, 1 through 6 in the East. Then you got the Sixers, 1 game back of the Pacers at 17 games back. Indiana, 16 games back. And Orlando, also 16. So an opportunity, just 2 games left in their season for Philly to play in to the top 6 and play out of the play-in round. Play-in right now, Sixers, Heat, Bulls, Hawks, and out to the Western Conference. Still a lot to be decided here atop the conference. Denver, Minnesota, OKC. Nuggets are a game better than both of the Timberwolves and the Oklahoma City Thunder. 4 seed presumptively will be the LA Clippers. Dallas Mavericks are the 5, followed by the Pelicans. Pelicans just 1 game better than the Phoenix Suns with a couple games to go in the season. Phoenix is the 7 seed, and in the play-in round, round, as is Sacramento, Golden State, and the LA Lakers. And that's where we stand right now in the NBA. WNBA draft is Monday, April the 15th, and Major League Baseball final of note, the Kansas City Royals. Pretty darn good. Been a long time since we could say that.
The pitch. Swing and a high fly ball, deep right center. Their center fielder's back. He's looking up, and that ball's out of here. And opposite field, 3-run homer for Bobby Witt Jr. 13-3 KC. A 2-home run day for Bobby. A 4-hit day. And it's all Royals on this Thursday, 13-3.
13-3 would be the final. Kansas City is 9-4. Audio there, KCSP 610 AM. AL Central standings, Cleveland, the best team in the division right now statistically, 9-3. KC 9-4. Detroit 7-4. Got Minnesota 4-6 overall. They were rained out yesterday, and the Chicago White Sox bringing up the bottom right now at 2-10 in the AL Central. Today and tonight in Major League Baseball, Twins at Tigers, 5 o'clock pregame, 5:40 the first pitch time right here on ESPN Sioux Falls. Other games going on, Brewers at Orioles, Rockies at Blue Jays, Royals at Mets, Yankees at Guardians. Other games this evening, Reds at White Sox, Cardinals at Diamondbacks, Cubs at Mariners. That last one, 8:40 start time on Apple TV+. NFL Draft coming up at the end of the month, April 25th through the 27th in Detroit. NASCAR race Sunday at Texas, 2:30 on Fox Sports 1. You got UFL football this weekend, and of course, the Masters rumbling along from Augusta. And right now, we do have an outright leader. It's not Bryson DeChambeau anymore. Bryson is 1 over through 4 holes. Max Homa 2 under through 9, and that has him atop the leaderboard right now at 7 under par. Scotty Scheffler also 6 under par, has yet to start his round today. Other guys up near the top of the leaderboard, Cameron Young, Cameron Davis, Taylor Moore, Ryan Fox, and Danny Willett. Moving your way down, looking for the Tiger Woods update. We'll get that to you. He is +1 even today, but also had to finish up his first round this morning, which he finished at +1, even in round number 2. And Tiger right now is through 9 holes, +1. That projected cut line hovering now around +3. Is not as great a performance so far in day number 2 as we expected. Those on the bubble right now include the big names, Wyndham Clark, Jason Day, Phil Mickelson at +2, Chris Kirk at +3. Outside looking in, Shane Lowry, Adam Scott +4, Ricky Fowler also +4 right now. And then as you look down at the very bottom of the leaderboard, you got Fred Couples down there at +11, Dustin Johnson, Bubba Watson, a former winner a couple times at +10, and Jordan Spieth, a guy that everyone loves to root for, everyone loves to bet on. Spieth right now +7 and is currently even today through 8 holes of action. College hockey update, Frozen 4 got underway with the semifinals last night. It was Denver over Boston in overtime 2-1, and Boston College over Michigan 4-0. It sets up Denver colliding with BC. That championship game for the Frozen 4 coming up on Saturday evening, 5 o'clock start time. You can watch it on ESPN2. Now into your Reliabank headlines of the day. 24th rated Augustana baseball team takes a 7-game win streak on the road for a 3-game set at Winona State over the weekend. Teams will play a doubleheader tomorrow starting at 1:30 and a single game projected for a noon start time on Sunday. Dre Dirksen has caught fire to elevate the Viking offense of late, and his recent hot streak puts him in position for a memorable weekend. The senior has slugged 7 homers in his last 6 games, including 3 in a doubleheader sweep over Sioux Falls on Wednesday, and he now has hit 49 home runs in an Augustana uniform. That is a tie for Nate Bauman for the most in program history. The Vikings dominant all-time against Winona State Warrior baseball, 31-14 in the all-time series and 9-6 on the road. Moving forward, more accolades coming in. South Dakota State quarterback Mark Gronowski was honored yesterday as a Scholar Athlete of the Year by the FCS Athletics Directors Association. Gronowski and Abilene Christian defensive back Anthony Egbo Jr. were selected out of a field of 8 finalists and 52 ADA Academic All-Star honorees to receive a $5,000 postgraduate scholarship, not only off the field, on the field, but in the classroom for Mark Gronowski excelling at all levels up there in Brookings. Big news for the Timberwolves today and tonight. Star Karl Anthony Towns is expected to make his return at home against Atlanta tonight. Sources told ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski. Towns, who underwent surgery just 4 weeks ago, was officially upgraded to questionable for tonight's game, cleared for full contact, 5-on-5 basketball activities earlier in the week, and it looks like Karl Anthony Towns will be back in the fold. Maybe not full-time, maybe they'll work him back in, but he will be making an appearance tonight. At least that's the latest reporting at ESPN.com. Caitlin Clark had a big effect on women's collegiate basketball, and she's already having a big effect on women's professional basketball. Big impact on the WNBA even before her arrival and destination are cemented. Clark, the transcendent star down in Iowa City and presumptive first overall pick in Monday's WNBA draft, is currently helping to drive an uptick in Fever sales activity. They could confirm a spike in ticket interest for the Indiana Fever. They averaged just 4,000 fans last year, and now they've been pre-selling tickets for next year, and they've had quite the result and quite the impact with the anticipated arrival of Caitlin Clark. At ticket platform SeatGeek, the average Fever resale price for home games is currently $182. That is over a 100% increase from last year. Welcome to the WNBA already, Caitlin Clark. As Matt Rule oversees a spring quarterback competition that includes decorated incoming recruit Dylan Raiola, the Nebraska coach recalls what former NFL general manager Marty Herney would say to him. He said, "Just remember, Matt, they're all fourth-round players," Rule told ESPN. I said, "What does that mean?" He goes, "If a first-rounder's playing like a fourth-rounder, you're upset. And if the free agent's playing like a fourth-rounder, you're excited. Just coach them all the same. Don't worry about how they got there." Raiola's path to Nebraska is very different, as he initially committed to both Ohio State and Georgia before taking what some would consider a downgrade to head and lead the resurgence of that Huskers program, where he became the highest-rated recruit in team history. Unlike Georgia and Ohio State, Nebraska has never made the college football playoff and last reached a bowl game back in 2016. And he's got a lot of family history there, too. Son of former Nebraska offensive lineman Dominic Raiola and a nephew of Huskers offensive line coach Donovan Raiola. Dylan is competing this spring with fellow freshman Daniel Kalin and sophomore Heinrich Harburg. Nebraska has divided its roster into 3 teams this spring, led by each quarterback. I would be astounded and floored and impatient. I'm not even a fan of the Huskers, but I would be astounded, floored, and impatient if Raiola is not the guy. He's got the tools, he's got the hype, he's got the family connection, he's got the maturity. Coaches like him. I like the future of Nebraska football, especially because of that young man who should be their starter at the beginning of the season. Bobby Witt Jr. and the Royals are the story of the AL Central to start the season. He had 4 hits, including 2 home runs, 5 RBIs, and the Kansas City Royals used a 9-run first inning to take down Houston 13-3 yesterday to complete a 3-game sweep and extend their winning streak to 7 games on the season. Vinny Pasquantino, who came into Wednesday's game hitting 108 with no RBIs, was 3 for 5 with 3 RBIs and is now hitting 222 and 8 ribbies on the season. To go from 0 to 8 in 2 days is pretty good, Pasquantino said. Hopefully we keep it up. If I could stay at this place, we'd be in a really good spot. The Royals are in a really good spot right now, very near the top of the division that currently belongs to the Cleveland Guardians, just a half game better than Kansas City. But you frame it out like this, you respond to it like this. We're not even to Memorial Day yet. The Minnesota Twins, you could say, hey, we're not playing great. That's fine. And for the Royals, you could say, oh my gosh, we're playing incredible. That's awesome. Same thing for Cleveland. Same thing for Chicago on the other end of the spectrum. Same thing for whoever you want to inject is. It is way too early to go ahead and say the Twins are bad. The Royals are good. The Guardians are good. You could say the Dodgers look the part and they look good. The Twins look bad. They look worse than they should. But it's way too early in the season to be talking about they are a good team, they are a bad team. You can focus on accumulating wins. Hey, it's a good start. That is perfectly fine and fair. But Minnesota still should win that division and should meet their expectations this year. Not the start that everyone was dreaming of. We'd love to switch places with the Guardians or the Tigers or the Kansas City Royals right now and have more wins than losses and be surging. But baseball is so much a sport in flux, and it takes a long time. Got 162 games to figure it out. We're just over 10 games in, and we're still figuring out who the Twins are, who the Royals are, who the Yankees are, who the Dodgers will be, and everyone across the board still getting their gears going, still getting their wheels turning on the season. We'll be talking baseball and much, much more with Wayne McDonald next week on the show. And I can tell you right now, if I were to ask Wayne, like I learned last year, what do you think of this team? How about that hot start? How about this bad start? He'll tell me, slow down, Bert. We won't say anything about if a team's bad or good or ugly or otherwise until after Memorial Day, which is still a month plus from now. Now the big news from college basketball before we go to break. After being turned down by multiple top-tier candidates, Kentucky is turning to one of its own to be the school's next men's basketball coach. The Wildcats are finalizing a 5-year deal with BYU head coach Mark Pope. Sources told ESPN on Thursday. Pope graduated Kentucky in 1996, played 2 seasons, and won a national title there, and has taken BYU to 2 NCAA tournaments in his 5 years, including a 23-11 record with a smooth transition to the Big 12 just this past season. He'll be replacing John Calipari, Hall of Fame coach who left for Arkansas after posting a pretty amazing record, 410 and 123, a national title, and 4 Final Four appearances. We take the break. Back with the Friday Parlay live next on this Friday edition of Overtime.
You want more of Overtime? It's all on the podcast. Free with the app or online at ESPN Sioux Falls. Overtime with Bert Rameen on ESPN 102.3 and AM 1000 KSOO.
Right back with you on this Friday edition of Overtime. We got an appointment to keep with RJ Ochoa here in just moments. Talking Cowboys on the show. The Friday Parlay is here and it is live. Already clicked the button. It's posted on Twitter right now, hashtag Friday Parlay. Here are your picks that you need to make to win big over the weekend, which includes, of course, a gift certificate to your choice of Possibilities or high-end glass and tobacco, and Minnesota Twins tickets. Denver and Boston College are colliding in the final of the Frozen Four, better known as the National Championship game on Saturday night. You got to pick who wins. No spread, no nothing, just a straight-up pick 'em. Is it Denver or is it Boston College? On Sunday in the NBA, Phoenix plus 5.5 at Minnesota, Dallas plus 4.5 at OKC, and your tiebreaker, predictably, winning score to par at the Masters. If you think it's going to be 8 under par like it has been more often than not in history, then go ahead and put -8. Don't put 8 because I'm not giving you credit for that. I'm a tough grader. You got to follow the rules. The Friday Parlay, brought to you by Possibilities and Iron Glass and Tobacco, is officially live right now. Enter it. Win big. Win, 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 as the Mighty Ducks say. Get on Twitter. Enter the Friday Parlay right now. We're talking Cowboys and NFL Draft next. RJ Ochoa, manager, editor-in-chief of Blogging to the Boys, coming up next on the Friday edition of Overtime.
Detergent. Stream us online. Streaming now. Overtime with Bert Rameen on ESPN 102.3 and AM 1000 KSOO. Sioux Falls sports leader.
Right back with you. It's hour number 2 of Overtime on a Friday. The Friday Parlay is up and it is live. It's moving and grooving and ready to deliver some goodies to you. Minnesota Twins tickets, your choice of gift certificate to Possibilities or high-end glass and tobacco. All you got to do, hop on Twitter, enter the Friday Parlay, hashtag Friday Parlay. Make sure you're giving us a follow, and you can win big over the weekend with the Friday Parlay. A team that's won big in the regular season lately, has not won big in the postseason, is the Dallas Cowboys. Here to break down their offseason or lack thereof, depending upon your overall opinion on the team. RJ Ochoa, one of our favorites of Blogging the Boys, SB Nation, joins us now on the ESPN hotline. RJ, it's a blast to have you, my friend, and we're finally here, less than 2 weeks to the draft. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Bert. It's great to be here. Obviously, it's an exciting time. 2 weeks from today, unless they trade all the way out, the Dallas Cowboys will have at least one new player as a result of the first round.
24th overall pick for the Dallas Cowboys. I know there's an article up right now at bloggingtheboys.com. It's every fan's dream, really, if we're being honest, to either draft a premier player or have your team trade down and get a bunch of more picks in the future, whether it be this year or next. The Dallas Cowboys do have an article up right now, 5 teams that could be interested in trading up for the 24th pick. That's up at bloggingtheboys.com. RJ, I know you and I have been following the game for a while. We love football. We love everything that it entails. But what do you make of this crazy surge in draft coverage and interest? Every year it seems like it just reaches new heights, and there's a zillion people out there mock drafting, podcasting, talking about it all. Pretty darn cool to be around the NFL draft these days, I'd say.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of factors. One is there's just so much available to do, and it's probably the time of year that offers the most opinion. And because there's a number of them and a number of ways to convey them, I think people are just kind of fascinated by this one, that one, what you think, what I think. Kate McAllister said in Home Alone that Christmas was the season of perpetual hope. And while she was right, I mean, this is kind of that too. The NFL is a league where you can go from worst in your division to first in the blink of an eye. And this is that blink. You really have to obviously land it. But this can change the fortunes of a franchise, not just for one season, but for an era. And that's why it's so exciting for me.
Very exciting for the Dallas Cowboys as well. What hasn't been exciting, depending upon who you ask, there's a lot of people that are picking on Dallas this offseason for not reloading, not rebuilding a roster that has had some defections this offseason. What do you make about the offseason firsthand as to who is now off the team and the limited free agent additions that they've made? We'll get to Dak and McCarthy in a minute, but on that personnel side, first things first, what do you make of what Dallas has done and what they haven't done this offseason?
Yeah, I mean, it's really difficult to explain. In fact, I can't. I can't logic my way through it. It was all, to be clear, exacerbated and has now just become memed and whatever by Jerry's all-in comment. And that's all anybody kind of wants to say about it. But this is, in some ways, par for the course for the Cowboys. They are pretty well known for not being active in free agency, for prioritizing signing their own. And while that is true, every year has featured a little bit of meat for everybody to kind of gnaw and nibble on. Last year, they traded for Brandon Cooks and Stephon Gilmore. That was kind of out of character. Normally, in the past, they've at least taken care of somebody on their team by way of an extension that they were up for. This offseason has featured absolutely nothing. Now, you can make an argument that there's nobody who they lost that you feel devastated about. Maybe you do feel devastated about Tyron Smith. But they have one external free agent to date, and it was Eric Kendricks, or it is Eric Kendricks. And that's because he initially agreed to terms with the San Francisco 49ers. So that kind of barely happened. And on the subject of extensions, because, again, they love to talk about how they're prioritizing paying their own, you can make an argument that the three best players on the team all need contract extensions, and Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, and Micah Parsons, and that none of them have them at this moment in time. So it really just kind of feels like they turned the lights off and walked out of the building when they lost to the Green Bay Packers, and nobody's been back since.
And that's a good way to put it. And again, it feels like Jerry Jones is just setting everyone on thinner ice heading into 2024 than they were in 2023. Another disappointing loss in the postseason. In your eyes, I've got my opinion and answer here, and I would imagine yours is going to be the same. But in your eyes, RJ, who's more worthy of the long-term security? Neither of them have it right now, really. But do you think Jerry Jones should reward Dak Prescott or Mike McCarthy first with some future long-term security?
If I have to prioritize them, I'm certainly putting Dak at the top.
Yeah.
He's succeeded in so many ways that, we haven't seen as Cowboys fans. And he's led them to all sorts of highs relative to the regular season, obviously. He's taken them to the playoffs 3 years in a row. Now, they've obviously had some success without him, namely this, 2 years ago now when he missed those 5 games with a thumb injury. But he is the most important person in that building, whether it's a player, a staffer, whether it's a Jones family member. He is the person who the success of the team most directly hinges upon. And he's earned this. I mean, he also, called their bluff the last time they got into contract negotiations with him, which they lost. And they've set up a situation for him to win and profit immensely yet again. So there's no question in my mind that Dak is the top priority.
Dak Prescott, as he should be, the top priority, definitely a top 10, maybe sometimes a top 5 quarterback in the National Football League, bouncing around there, but nonetheless, hard to find those in the National Football League these days. RJ Ochoa, manager, editor-in-chief of Blogging the Boys, SB Nation site there, joining us on the ESPN hotline. Dan Quinn's out, Tony Pollard's gone, Tyron Smith gone. It's a different team this year, but I feel like the expectations are still pretty darn high. Where would you put it right now? I can't remember what Vegas had, 10.5 or 11.5 for the Cowboys. Where would you put a realistic expectations? Got to be pretty high, right?
Yeah, 10.5 is the last number I saw, and that's really where I struggle. because they've done a lot of objectively impressive things in the regular season. And so if it's just a regular season game, I totally trust them to be successful. I do think that they are unquestionably worse off than they were when their season ended, by way of all the mass exodus that you even just partly detailed there. But they do have a very good quarterback. They do have one of the best receivers in the NFL. They do have some really, really talented defenders. And so all that generally will compute to about 10, 11 wins, maybe if things break their way a 12th or a 13th. So I think that they'll be in the mix, but the reality, too, is everyone around them got significantly better. We have yet to see, who's going to be the quarterback of the Commanders, but they're coming into a pretty legitimate situation with all the money they've spent. The Giants, obviously, trading for and acquiring Brian Burns. The Eagles, aggressive as always. I mean, everybody in the NFL has done everything they can to narrow the gap between themselves and the Kansas City Chiefs, even though that might be a fruitless exercise. And so I would lean the over just barely in terms of 10.5 projected wins, but I have a very difficult time seeing how they can get in the tournament and fate could smile upon them, and this can be the year that they finally end the drought. This season does have some, dead on arrival shades to it, and that's an unfortunate reality right now.
RJ, before we dive into some draft capital, draft target talks for the Dallas Cowboys, because I know there's Dallas Cowboy fans everywhere, just like the Yankees, Ohio State, Duke, whatever. We'll talk about Cowboys draft capital and targets, but I want to pick your brain about the backfield and potential free agent additions. It could be pre-draft, post-draft, or maybe even in training camp. Who's in the backfield right now, and what's to know about those guys, and who makes sense to either come back like a Zeke Elliott or to go out and grab as a free agent veteran on the market? What is the state of that backfield for us? Give us that latest.
It's definitely one of concern. I mean, from a literal standpoint right now, it's Deuce Vaughn and Rico Dowdle. And everybody obviously learned about Deuce's story last year. It is a remarkable story, but it's hard to feel inspired by what they're working with. And, our side and a lot of other people encourage the Cowboys to be active in free agency because this is not viewed as a particularly deep draft class at the running back position. And so they didn't do that. And so everybody wants to paint them as drafting Jonathan Brooks, who's obviously a local guy, having gone to the University of Texas in the second round. And the Cowboys do love to kind of take a risk with their second round draft pick. He's coming off the injury. And so he kind of makes sense and checks a lot of boxes relative to who they are and how they use that particular resource. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel it in my bones, and it's just my personal guess that they are going to bring back Zeke based on reports. And I will always be grateful to Zeke, as I'm sure a lot of Cowboys fans will be, for his contributions. I mean, we all had some great times, but there's just no objective data point you can, push me in the direction of to suggest or prove that he is an explosive player nowadays. Yeah. It would feel like chasing a story and chasing, hype and chasing narrative more than anything else. But the Cowboys have had an offseason from hell, and so this would kind of feel, sort of right up that alley.
Definitely a good thought there, RJ. Before we let you go, let's talk about the draft targets in the first round, second round, or otherwise. Dallas has 7 picks, 1 in the first, second, and third, a fifth, a sixth, and 2 in the seventh. Let's just talk about the top 2 or 3. Who makes sense and why? You mentioned Jonathan Brooks. That's who I wrote down earlier this week doing a preview. Maybe a tackle. What makes the most sense in round 1 and 2 for Dallas?
Yeah, I'd be stunned if they walk out, of the early part of round Friday, I should say, through the second round, without any kind of help along the offensive line. The discussion on whether or not it's a tackle hinges heavily upon how exactly they view Tyler Smith. If they view him to be their left tackle of the moment, then, the need for that position obviously doesn't exist in the same way, but they do have a hole at left guard. They have a hole at center with Tyler Biadasz obviously defecting to the Washington Commanders. A lot of people, like to mock Jackson Powers Johnson to them, and that makes sense if he ultimately winds up being on the board. I think if Jackson Powers Johnson's gone, because of the lack of picks the Cowboys have, the most popular sort of thing that we've kind of discussed is trading back, the way the Cowboys did in 2013 with the 49ers, that netted them Travis Frederick and an extra third-round draft pick. This is a team that really needs some capital. You mentioned the early rounds, but they don't have a fourth-round pick, and so they really need as much help as they can get, and they don't have that because of the Trey Lance trade. So if they can recoup some sort of top 100, top 120 pick in the process and still walk away with a quality offensive lineman, I think that would be the most successful utilization of resources in the early part of the draft.
It's a fun time of the year. NFL draft coming up less than 2 weeks away. RJ, we'll be talking to you before too long, hopefully recapping a semi-successful, not too successful. I don't want them to catch my Packers now. But best of luck to your Cowboys in the draft. I appreciate the insight as always here on the show.
Of course. Appreciate it, Bert. Have a great weekend and enjoy the Masters.
Hey, looking forward to it. RJ Ochoa of Blogging the Boys, bloggingtheboys.com. Great site for your Dallas Cowboys news and information and updates, wants and needs and desires for a better future of the Dallas Cowboys. Again, semi-frustrating offseason so far for Dallas, and some would say I'm putting that very lightly. It's been very frustrating. Hey, we're going to swing for the fences. Hey, we're going to take a chance. We're going to make some noise. We're going to be in on every free agent deal, says Jerry Jones, and they've been in on absolutely nothing. Eric Kendricks opts to come and join Mike Zimmer, former Vikings head coach, the defensive coordinator down in Dallas. Kendricks is really the only big addition that Dallas has made in free agency this offseason. He'll be at the heart of the defense, replacing the injured, retired Leighton Vander Esch. That's the latest from Cowboy Land. We move to the good, the bad, the ugly. Final segment of the show and the week. On tap next on Overtime.
Don't miss a moment of local college and pro sports action. Stay connected and download the app for Overtime on ESPN 102.3 and AM 1000 KSOO.
Great chat as always moments ago with RJ Ochoa, manager and editor-in-chief of Blogging the Boys, bloggingtheboys.com for all your latest Dallas Cowboys news. Just about tuned up and ready to roll for today's edition of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, including what could be some big news for you Minnesota Vikings fans. Get into that in a moment, but quickly, the Friday Parlay is live, people. Win Minnesota Twins tickets and much, much more over the weekend. Got to have a Twitter account, got to give us a follow, and that's it. Enter to win big with the Friday Parlay. Your picks this week, always brought to you by Possibilities and High-End Glass and Tobacco. You got to tell me who wins the NCAA Men's D1 Ice Hockey Championship. It's Denver and it's Boston College. That's a pick'em. Phoenix and Minnesota. NBA basketball on Sunday. Suns are the road team, getting 5.5 points. Dallas plus 4.5 at OKC on Sunday as well. And your tiebreaker, winning score to par at the Masters. And again, I've had to do this before, so I'm making sure you hear me loud and clear. It's the winning score to par. So for those of you that don't follow golf, you got to put the plus or the minus on it. Otherwise, I can't give you the prize pack because I'll have somebody clamoring, hey, he put 8. Shouldn't that be read as plus 8 instead of minus 8? Let's do it. Plus or minus. We can do it very easily on the Friday Parlay. Enter now. We've already got about 10 entries on this week's Friday Parlay. Win Minnesota Twins tickets and more each and every week. That's brought to you by Possibilities and High-End Glass and Tobacco. And now, the moment we've all been waiting for. Final segment of the day, final segment of the week. Let's do it. It's the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Who has been the problem child today? Displayed their ugly side. Whined a bit too much and now setting a bad example. Well, Bert is calling out today's headline makers with the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Big news for the Minnesota Vikings fans. It's not concrete. It's not even a milkshake yet, but it's working that way. It could be solidified into some sort of real news by the time next week rolls around. But the Atlanta Falcons tampered with quarterback Kirk Cousins. We don't know if the NFL is going to punish the Falcons and what the punishment will be. But the NFL is investigating. If the NFL is serious about getting to the truth, is noted by Vikings homer Mike Florio, who runs the Pro Football Talk at NBC Sports site. So obviously, he's got his own lean on this. He's got his own wants and desires. But he notes that the last time there was a little bit of tampering going on, there was a pick swap. And the Falcons hold pick number 8. The Vikings hold pick number 11. Could it be that they might swap those picks as a result of the alleged tampering between Atlanta and Kirk Cousins? He was going to leave town anyway. They had it all done, and I don't know why Kirk had to say what he said, and Atlanta had to do what they did, allegedly, But that could be pretty darn good for the Minnesota Vikings, already in the top 11. They could be in the top 8 and might not have to give up as much to get into the top 4, top 3 to select their quarterback of the future. Other good news out of a very bad situation. Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver Rashee Rice did surrender to authorities yesterday on charges including aggravated assault after he and another driver of a speeding sports car allegedly caused a crash involving a half dozen vehicles on a Dallas highway back in March. A spokesperson for Rice's attorney, Texas State Senator Royce West, confirmed to the Associated Press on Thursday evening that Rice did turn himself in at the Glen Heights Police Department. Rice was booked into the regional jail in DeSoto, and West said he was released on bond later last night. Other news, this is bad news out of that situation. Not only is Rashee Rice involved, but SMU wide receiver Teddy Knox has been suspended by the program after being identified as the second driver, along with Chiefs receiver Rashee Rice, who caused a recent chain reaction crash down in the Dallas area. SMU takes these allegations very seriously. Federal student privacy laws prevent the university from discussing details involving student disciplinary proceedings. Rice, who was driving the Lamborghini SUV, and again, the other vehicle reportedly driven by current SMU wide receiver, former teammate of Rashee Rice just a year ago, Teddy Knox, and he's been suspended from his position on the team. Lastly, into the ugly, I wish we had another hour because this would take all day and all month long to get to the bottom of what the heck is going on with Ipe Mitsuhara, Shohei Ohtani, and the alleged gambling activity that went on there. The former interpreter for Shohei Ohtani reportedly stole more than $16 million over 2 years from the LA Dodgers superstar to pay off gambling debts on an illegal sports book. That's according to an affidavit filed by federal authorities yesterday. Federal authorities filed a complaint accusing Ipe Mitsuhara, 39 years old, of bank fraud, which can carry a maximum fine of up to $1 million and or up to 30 years in prison. I want to emphasize this point. Mr. Ohtani is considered a victim in this case, according to U.S. Attorney Martin Estrada, saying that during a news conference yesterday in L.A., Estrada added that there is no evidence Ohtani had any knowledge of Mitsuhara's gambling activities or use of his bank account to pay his debts. As said, investigators combed through years of text messages between the two and found no discussion of gambling. Mr. Mitsuhara used and abused that position of trust in order to plunder Mr. Ohtani's bank account to the tune of over $16 million. There's so much more in here, including all sorts of text message conversation and weird conversation about Ipe in trouble. Hey, can I get one more bet? Can I get one more bet? Day after day after day. It's a tremendously ugly situation and a very long article up right now at ESPN.com if you want to check it out and get to the bottom of the bottom that we're at right now, which is nowhere near the actual bottom of everything that went on between Ipe Mitsuhara and the alleged gambling activity, all tied back, of course, not to any gambling knowledge right now to Shohei Ohtani. But again, very troubling, very ugly, and a bad situation for Ipe Mitsuhara right now. Up to 30 years in prison and a $1 million fine is at stake. And that's just where we are right now in that investigation. We take the break. We say so long. Have a great weekend out there, Sioux Falls. Enjoy the weather, swing the sticks, hit the links, or just hit the couch. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you on Monday.